Snowball will be the next evolution coming to Clash Royale. It's a 2-cycle evolution, same stats, kinda like the recent ones. The way this works is after being thrown, it will roll sort of like a log, and the damage is the same throughout the entire roll, so it's basically just free extra range. However, the cool part is hitting a high HP troop will get it stuck in the snowball and force it to travel along with it for the rest of the 4 tiles. This does include heavy troops like Golem, which is kinda surprising and honestly a little bit scary. The horizontal range on it is more than 1 tile because it has this sucking magnet effect to make it easier to hit things with it. This magnet effect allows it to hit a suspicious bush twice, which is something other small spells cannot do. Using this to your advantage, you can play your snowball slightly above the Hog Rider so it pulls him towards it, maximizing the pushback range it has. Whereas if you just play it on top of the Hog Rider, he won't get pushed back as far and will likely end up dealing more damage on your crown tower. Unlike the Goblin Cage, this snowball can take up more than 1 troop at the same time. There is zero limit at how many troops it can take inside, so it's basically infinite. When you snowball multiple troops, the order they come out in is actually not random. Here's an example. If the opponent plays a Sparky first and then a Giant, snowballing them would end up in the Sparky being behind the Giant. If you do the same setup but instead play the Giant first, then he would end up behind the Sparky because the snowball puts stuff down in the order they were deployed in. The tower always targets the card that was spawned first, even though it spawns behind. As you can see, on one side the mini P.E.K.K.A is getting targeted, while on the other side the Giant is getting targeted, even though the setups were technically identical. Sparky, for some godforsaken reason, is an exception to this, as the tower always targets it regardless of its deploy order, and as a Sparky player, I feel targeted and discriminated against. I am aware you don't actually have control over that, but if you know for a fact that your opponent dropped their Golem first because it was played in the back, you can easily ruin their entire push with just a single snowball. The first thought a regular human being would have is to use this on defense. I mean, it can push away a giant skeleton off your tower, so it's better than a log in this case. It can stop charging attacks like a Prince charge when normally a snowball cannot do that. And it even does very well against a minor tanking for some troops because it will get everything in one spot. This getting everything in one spot is cracked when you combine it with splash cards because it's like Tornado but with a slow effect. I would say it's even more effective than Tornado because the enemy troops would not be able to kill your spirits while inside of the snowball. I would like to note, however, that anything inside the snowball is immune to damage. So if I fireball an Electro Dragon while he is inside of the snowball, he will come out with nearly full HP. The only exception to this is Poison and Earthquake because for some reason the ticks will still damage the troops that are inside the snowball, which I find odd. I think there's a high chance that this is actually a glitch. Besides that, you can use it in creative ways like throwing things over the river or using this useful technique that I came up with. Basically, when you snowball a troop, you have 3 options. First one is a direct placement on them, which changes nothing on their pathing. The second one is slightly to the right placement, which pushes them away from the middle of your arena. And the third one is slightly to the left placement, which pushes them closer to the middle of the arena. This is very useful when you mess up a building position, as you can knock their troop back and push it a tile or 2 to the right, making it in range of your messed up building. Or you can use that pushback to push a troop closer to the middle of your arena, which makes some King Tower activations with the Tornado possible. It's even useful on offense. If you somehow get a prediction, you can literally force one of their troops to switch lanes away from your push. Speaking of offense, my first impression was that it would suck because the pushback is always the same side. So realistically, you can't really push troops away from your balloon, as you would have to push them right into the balloon. But to my surprise, if you don't use it like you use a normal snowball, it's actually cracked on offense. Like, you can still use it in a balloon push, but instead of knocking the Mega Minion back, it can be used to make an Executioner leave your balloon alone and start attacking a miner instead. Being creative with it is very rewarding. For example, it's very good with giant pushes, as it allows you to push the stuff away from your support and make them target your giant instead. Not only that, but usually an evil Valkyrie would shut down a tank for good if she was placed behind it. So if you snowball her to the front of the tank, she will end up pulling them to the tower, which would make them reach it quicker. Take a look at the next season's arena. Cool Christmas vibes, and the music in the background of this video is the new music and the sudden death theme respectively.